Wow, what a great video. Thanks everyone at HAVAN. That was so wonderful. Welcome everybody to the Women's Council Cafe series. We are so excited to have you here. I'm Meredith, I'm from Merino General Contracting, and I am the HAVAN Women's Council Vice Chair.
Hi Meredith. Hi Meredith, hi Danny. I'm Laurel James from Novell Design Build, and I'm the HAVAN Women's Council Chair as well, and it's so great to see you guys.
And I'm Danny Ferrens. I'm at Alabaster Homes, and I am the HAVAN's Women Council Chair of Social and Networking Committee.
So we are so happy to have you guys here. Danny, Laurel, thank you for joining me in the early minutes here while we all get settled. So if you've been to our cafe series before, welcome back. We noticed that there were a lot of new faces, and we are so excited to have you here. Given that this might be the first time that you're joining one of our Women's Council events, we thought that it would be a perfect opportunity to tell you guys a little bit about the Women's Council, who we are, what we're doing, and why we're here. So the Women's Council was founded in 2018. And our goals are to engage, encourage, and empower women in construction, but we've also broadened that outreach to outside of construction and outside of HAVAN, because we are really looking to get more women involved in construction. We have a massive labor shortage in BC, and the perfect way to alleviate that shortage is to get more women to join the industry. And so Laurel, Danny, and I have, and the rest of the executive team, have been working so hard, and we have grown our membership to over 115 members, which is amazing. And we have I know, and we have so many opportunities to be getting involved and active. And the cafe series is one of our favorites because it's really an ability to. It's an event that creates more of a network and a support group for women that are in construction, and I think that's something that we are very sorely missing a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But before we get started, we have a couple of housekeeping tips. Previously we would do our cafe series and we would have our general meetings before, but we realized that we weren't really being given the opportunity to connect with you guys on a deeper level. So we weren't able to talk about all the events and initiatives that we had going on, and we also weren't able to get your guys' feedback. So to address that, we have decided to move our general meetings to the first Wednesday of every month at 4:30. So our upcoming one is going to be on June 2nd at 4:30 p.m. And we hope to see you there. If you want to get any more information, please feel free to email any of us. We also have our next cafe series. It's going to be August 18th, and the topic is to be determined. So if anybody has any topics that they are dying to have us do a cafe series about, please reach out to Danny. And we also have our Women's Council Career Fair, and that'll be on October 5th. And this one we are so excited about. It's the first ever virtual career fair. And the reason why we're so excited about it is because it's going to be a career fair that is way more inclusive. We're opening it up to outside HAVAN members. So we're looking at post-secondary, we're reaching out to high schools, we're reaching out to individuals. So if you're in construction currently and you're looking for a change, or if you're interested in getting into construction and you just don't know where to start, this career fair is perfect for you. It's all virtual, and we'll have a ton of booths and a ton of employers that you can connect with. So it's going to be a really great time. So if you want to get active or you want to sign up for the career fair, please contact Ramneet at Iconic Homes.
And Meredith, I heard you said a lot of booze, but you actually meant a lot of booths, right? Because if it's the booze.
I meant booze. Just kidding. Booths. That's not the cafe series. So in terms of this cafe series, we're covering the topic of glass ceilings, and I don't want to give anything away, but the idea for the glass ceilings, I think we all have our own ideas about what that means, but how we approached and we shaped this event was actually really driven by a conversation that Danny and Laurel had in the early stages. And rather than me try and narrate what they talked about, I would love for them to share with you. So Danny, Laurel, take it away.
Well, I feel like you could have narrated. I mean, it may have happened. Sorry.
Well, Danny called Laurel.
It was actually the other way around.
That makes sense, actually. Laurel called, and she's pretty good about
Laurel
that.
always calls and she stays on top of things. So she was staying on top of us, and we came up with the topic breaking glass ceilings. And I think the idea that Laurel had in mind and the idea that I had in mind were kind of different.
Yeah.
As they tend to be.
What is in your mind? What is a glass ceiling or breaking glass ceilings? What does in your mind the topic entail, Laurel?
Yeah, to me, when we were talking about it there, it's interesting because I right away started thinking about glass ceilings. I was reminded of there's a leadership speaker that I quite like, and she was talking about how we can be our own worst enemy sometimes. And so I think what I started talking about was how, we can sabotage ourselves often just as easily. And the glass ceiling, I mean, it's glass for a reason. It's transparent. So it's not there physically. It's however each of us manifest it. Yes. And so that's where I think our
technical issues. I think Laurel is. But I think that I think what she was trying to say is exactly how the conversation got shaped, which is it can mean something different for everybody.
And on my team, on my side, when I don't even know who I was talking to, and the topic of glass ceilings came about, and I asked one of my team members, "How do you know there's a glass ceiling?" And she goes, and she's a junior member, and she goes, "Well, you look up." And I was thinking to myself,
that's one of my favorite stories that you told me about, and it was one that you shared in the early stages of this, and I was like, that your employee has some great one-liners.
100%. And I feel like I feel like we needed to talk about this, because depending on if the younger team members don't see these glass ceilings, they don't know what it is. Is it something that we're really placing upon ourselves? So where is it coming from? So I felt it was really important to explore what it is and where it came about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, I think you carried on this conversation with our two speakers for tonight, but I think that how we're approaching this Café series is so different than how we've approached any other Café series. And I'm wondering, why the switch up, why the change up in how we've run things before?
Well, I honestly think it was a conversation between Lauren and I, because I wanted to have this to be a chat between a couple of girlfriends, like rather than, and actually Nitasha and Debbie, our speakers, don't know each other, so I'm making them be girlfriends. I wanted us to explore the casual side of things. I wanted us to explore things that happen in the background, things that people think when they talk about glass ceilings. What is it? How do we see it's preventing us from achieving what it is? Like, I just want to explore everything. And I felt instead of moderating this one and turning it into a panel, it would be better to have a casual conversation about it. Mm-hmm. So that's really what it is.
No, it's awesome. I thought, I don't know, I just thought I'd share like one big thing that I know that I always do in sort of making myself my own worst enemy is not sort of like missing the bigger career path or missing the bigger opportunity that's right in front of me. Just as one example, that just by not, it's all perception, and sometimes if you just don't see it or your eyes aren't open to it.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's can I quickly plug our industry tours, just piggybacking off of that comment that Laurel made, because I think that it's so important, is missing the career path. So we do have an industry tour that we're planning in the fall. And the point of the industry tours is to introduce women to different career paths in construction and in the industry in general. So, looking at more of the non-traditional roles and having a chance to talk to people that are currently doing those roles and figure out what those paths are. So, Laurel, I'm so happy that you said something, because that is one of the reasons why we have the industry tours. And that is something that we can go into a lot more detail with at our general meeting on June 2nd at 4:30.
That's good.
Laura, we'll turn it up to you now.
We'll turn it on to me. Well, wonderful. Well, we're really excited to have today's conversation going, and really excited to have, we want to thank our sponsors. First of all, we've got Alabaster Homes and Pavilion Co-work. And Alabaster's mandate is not only to build amazing homes, but to build strong communities, which spurred the origin for their sister company, Pavilion Co-work. Alabaster has a culture of women-led departments. 5 out of their 8 are women-led, and equal opportunity hiring, where the best candidate gets the job no matter what gender. 60% of their construction department is female, and 62% of their company is female. So this team is a great example of how women lift this industry up, and we thank you so much for your support of Haven's Women's Council and our event here today. And we're looking for more sponsors, by the way. Just a shout out to everyone. I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, but the comment section, if anybody does have any comments or chat, they can place it into the comments and we'll see them here as well. And so if anybody is interested in being a sponsor, you've got topic ideas, you've got panelist ideas, we want to hear about them. So feel free to put them into the comment there or reach out to one of us afterwards. Yeah. So I think what we want to do is throw things over to Danny and start this conversation off. Danny, I'll let you introduce the 2 speakers that we have for today. And I'm looking forward to it all. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. On screen.
Hi, guys. So exciting to be here today. I'm really, really excited to introduce you to the new 2 speakers of today. We're talking to Nitasha of ETRO Construction, and we are talking to Debbie of One Stop HR. Both of these ladies are veterans in their industries. They're industry leaders. They're paving the path for the next generation of women. And the reason I really chose them is because I felt that when it comes to a topic that's so serious, I wanted to feature 2 speakers or 2 conversations of women that are on the same side but have maybe slightly different views, if that makes any sense. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves briefly? Maybe I'll pass it on to Nitasha right now, and then Debbie, just so everybody knows where you're from and what you do.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nitasha Rajora. I'm the Director of Development at ETRO Construction. So I am an architect by background, and I've kind of moved through the building industry. So I've worked as an architect, I've worked in construction and in real estate development. So I've kind of seen it from the industry from various viewpoints. But at ETRO Construction, I think my role here is pretty much suits my background. I play a variety of different roles. So I run basically strategic development for the company and oversee a lot of our corporate development activities. I also oversee our new ventures. So in terms of real estate or other spin-off ventures that ETRO Construction is championing. And I also run projects in both pre-con and construction. So yeah, every day is very different, but I think I have the best job in the company because I get to see everything.
Sounds like you get busy at times.
Yes, slightly.
Debbie, how about you? Do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. So thanks for having me today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And my company is One Stop HR. So I do human resources consulting, and I've been in human resources for 25 years. I've been doing consulting for 17 of those years, and I do a lot of work in things like leadership development and culture development and employee engagement. And I also do a lot of teaching around things like diversity and inclusion and recruitment and selection. So these are all things I think we're probably going to end up talking about at some point today. So I'm really, delighted to be here. And I've been doing a lot of work with professional associations, empowering women to break through glass ceilings and pursue their career visions and dreams for themselves. So thanks for having me today.
So to add a couple more tidbits so everybody knows why you two ladies exactly. Quite a few months ago, I reached out to a bunch of people in the industry and I asked if they can connect me with women that are either directors or VPs or principals in construction companies, large multiple family construction companies. The only person I got connected with is Nitasha. I wanted to do a brainstorm about what us women go through, and I wanted to do it from the upper management level, not just from my staff, project management staff. Like I just wanted to try all levels. And I got introduced to Nitasha, and we joke about this, that we have lost so many friends during the pandemic, but we managed to find each other and become friends in this and be able to lean on one another. So that was the one tidbit. And Nitasha said something that I cannot forget. And it was, I was always raised to be the good girl, the quiet girl. And all of a sudden I'm in this industry where I need to push my way through. So I need to do everything against what I was brought up to do in order to succeed. And I think that is such a big statement and such a true statement for all of us women. And then I know Debbie through the Breaking Space podcast. And there was one statistic that Debbie talked about, and I don't think I will ever forget it. And there's a chance I will leave the industry because of it, because I have these moments where I just want to cry about it. And she said, if we continue the change at the rate that we are currently going, there is a change. It's going to take 170 years before we reach equality.
Gender equality in the workplace.
Yes.
So we are making progress, but at the rate we are currently going, it will take 170 years. That's from the World Economic Forum.
Insane. Absolutely insane. So to pass it over to you ladies, what does a glass ceiling mean to you? Like, what is that term? What do you think about when somebody says that? And what, like breaking glass ceiling, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I can just absolutely say, being in HR for 25 years, I feel like nothing phases me anymore. And I have supported a lot of construction companies, manufacturing companies, and, more traditionally male dominated businesses, and been very alone as the only female in the room. So ladies, I can absolutely relate to your experiences and having to kind of show up very differently. The glass ceiling, I see it every day. So I hear it in interviews. I hear it with questions that women candidates get asked that men don't get asked. I hear it in decision-making around certain jobs, comments that are made like, well, did you notice she said she just got married? So that probably means she's going to have kids sometime soon. So I'm not so sure I want to take a risk on her. And I'm literally kicking the person under the table. Like, I cannot believe, one thing to have a unconscious bias. It's another thing to be fully conscious of the bias and like verbalize it in a room when you have a woman sitting across from you, that being me. I still see all the time women are asked, can you take these notes? Can you take the minutes and distribute them? Could you go and grab me a coffee? So, I mean, there is discrimination, and I've done a ton of work with the Engineering Association. The stories that I hear from women in that profession are heartbreaking. Some of their experiences, some of the things they're said, told, the way they're spoken to. So absolutely, I mean, we know discrimination is against all minorities. So I don't want to just say it's about women. I see it for all minorities in the workplace. And it is affecting our ability to be successful. I struggle with the idea that the glass ceiling is a mindset. I do believe whatever you believe you can achieve. So if you can get your mindset around it, I think you can break through. But I also think the statistics and the facts are speaking for themselves. So when you hear things like 81% of CEOs worldwide are men.
Yeah.
That's a real statistic, or like the 170-year statistic, or something like 51% of women face discrimination in hiring versus 5% of men. Like, the statistics are real. So I also think we have to just, as much as we want to say it doesn't exist and there's a lot of success stories, the facts, I think, do speak for themselves. And so, yeah, my perception is, for sure, I see it. It still exists, and there are strategies to overcome it, but it is real. Nitasha, what do you think? What's your perspective?
Well, you know, I wasn't raised, and I didn't enter my career even when I was very junior, thinking that there was a limit to what I could achieve. And so I think there's a equivalent of people saying glass ceiling and thinking that means that there's a limit. But I think the glass ceiling comes more from exactly what you said. You reach a point where you realize, hey, there's no like female leaders in senior roles. And then you're like, well, what is the reason for that? And people kind of, captured that barrier or whatever in something that's called the glass ceiling. But it's really, it's not like a level. To me, it's more of the things that you talk about. It's the subtle biases that exist. And even when people say something like that guy said in the room about, that the candidate being recently married, even if they say it out loud, they don't recognize that it's a bias. They're just like, oh no, but it's just a concern we should think about. They feel there's total justification in bringing that kind of stuff up. And so how do you combat something, or how do you break something when people are not recognizing that it exists? Like, as you said, the fact that there are so few female leaders shows that there's an issue. I think having open conversations and talking about it is really one step in the right direction of strengthening a new network of individuals in our industry that are going to go forward and conduct business and do things in a way that's different than traditionally it's been done in the male-dominated way. But yeah, like the other aspect I kind of see of what is a glass ceiling, it's if it's not like a physical like barrier in terms of a level that you can go through, it's really just the grit that you need and the additional challenges that you face to get to the level that you want to get to, which if you were comparing I'll just say like a white male trying to get there compared to a female or any other female, a minority female, it's like they're climbing a hill and we're climbing a mountain. And so you need that extra layer or level of stamina in order to like force you to progress. And I think that we see the result of what happens when you have to climb that mountain your entire career is that you get weary at the end of the day, or you're seen as very like having this very hard front. Like, I don't know how many people think that I'm just like this strong person and they have no idea about my softer side, because I haven't been fostered in an environment where like that was a way for me to succeed by being soft all the time. Like, I had to like stand my ground, figure out how to have tough skin. And that, so the entire perception of me, and I see other women that I sometimes interact in the industry and they're like, oh yeah, like they thought I was, difficult, or like, avoid conflict or argumentative and all that kind of stuff. It's
hard ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been called all kinds of words, right?
When really it's just like, I'm standing up for myself. I'm actually
assertive.
Asserting my voice and my opinion. And I don't I'm not accepting the fact that I'm going to be talked over or dismissed as easily as I might have in my younger years, where I was just like trying to pay my dues or whatever. And that comes off in a very different way for a female or a male. And that's the glass ceiling or the glass fog, I guess, that we have to move through in order to progress in the industry. And it is what it is, but that experience, I think, has been consistent when I speak to Danny or other women that have managed to kind of grow the way that we have.
Here's the thing, it exists in all industries. So can you imagine even more so how it's compounded in more traditional male dominated industries, like the industries you're in? Yeah. And I say things like IT and engineering. And, when I know one of the questions we wanted to talk about was kind of like, where does this come from? Well, I think we can very easily say, first of all, it's our history and our socialization, right? I mean, cavemen went out and worked, and women stayed home and took care of the home and made sure children were fed. Like it's in our anthropology. It's kind of in our DNA. And sure, we've made a ton of progress, right, since then. But I mean, 50% of women say the pay gap still exists. And I can tell you a lot of girls who, for example, in school through teachers were, career counseled or suggested to take certain school courses or not take certain school courses because, again, they were seen as being more traditionally for men or for girls. That's slowly starting to change, as I think a lot of industries, and I know specifically trades and engineering, are doing a ton of work, even starting in high schools now and in universities, to just recruit girls and help them to see through good role models that, hey, it's possible for you to pursue, right, things like physics and calculus. And those aren't reserved just for the boys that are super smart. And I also, think a lot of it has to do with our culture and our, family upbringing. So there's so many influences that we are trying to change at the same time as still many of us wanting to be moms or have families and have careers. So what you're saying is absolutely right. It is an uphill battle that women do face, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. And I think we have to acknowledge that this is true, and conversations like this are very healthy, right? And very kind of healing and empowering, because we can get together and say, this is our experience and this is really going on and it's true. And then how do we support each other to make positive change? That's kind of the question that I have.
Yeah. I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I would say that it was only this year that I met Danny, and I had somebody that I could who truly understood kind of like within the core industry, like what it was like to go through. So imagine going through 20 years, which I don't know where that is for Danny. If I'm the only other person that, we were introduced to each other, then I imagine that there's not that many people in your circle that went through similar. But if that's the case, yes, you go through this alone for the most part. And I didn't go through my career having anybody that could even have a conversation about what it's like to go through the challenges and what they went through. I think, and because of that, all of my managers or bosses in my career have been men. And so you kind of through the years figure out, when you're younger, you learn your management style from the people that manage you, the mishmash of different managers that you have mentored you or whatever that you've gone through. But I remember reaching a point in my career where I realized their voice is not my voice. I cannot get off with that casual management style and be taken seriously. I had to figure out a way to be myself, because I also saw a few women in the industry that were senior that were very devoid of any femininity, that almost had to strip their femaleness away in order to get to the level that they were. And all I wanted to do was stay as far away from them as I could, because I was not reflective of who I wanted to be. And so it took a long time to figure out, how to find my authentic voice that would allow me to be the type of manager and coach or whatever that I want to be, and garner the respect that I need to gain from the people in order for them to, in order for me to manage them. But all of that was just figuring it out organically, because there was no sounding board. There was very few people that really understand what I went through. And I hope that's why I'm very passionate about talking to women and younger women, because when I see them, and they're definitely from a different generation, they definitely have a level of entitlement that I never had when I started in the industry. I was very much like the last generation of the old school mentality, where you pay your dues, you listen to your elders, like you don't speak up. Like, this younger generation is very, very different, but they still see some of the same biases that I see, which I'm surprised about. So I think like talking about it, and for them not to feel alone as they're going through their own, career journey, is super important. Like, we shouldn't hide this stuff. We should admit it, see how we can change it and manage ourselves better and make it easier for whoever comes next.
Nitasha, you brought up a point about stripping yourself of your femininity and everything that's female. I make a point that I do the exact opposite. Like, I insist on being as feminine as I can and still prove a point that I know construction. I don't need to look or act like a man in order to understand how construction is handled. And I think what you brought up, mentorship is a huge thing. Having allies is massive. I don't think any of us could have made it. Yes, you need support. Like, we couldn't have made it to where we are if we didn't have support. And it may have been, for both you and I, Nitasha, I didn't have anybody really in construction that's at a higher level that was able to let me know, well, this is how you do it. I just kind of, I think there was more stupidity and insanity than anything, and I just plowed through. But I think it's a huge, huge thing for the next generation to reach out and ask questions and seek mentorship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mentorship is huge. And I feel like support networks are big. I coach a lot of people, men and women. And I will be honest and say, I spend a lot of time coaching women how to manage their careers, because we're not taught necessarily how to do that. And there actually is things that we need to do as women to manage our careers that men don't necessarily need to do, because their careers seem to almost get managed for them. And so, everything from like having a vision and setting some goals for yourself and having a strong support network and telling people about your accomplishments and your strengths, which are not always things that, come naturally or easily for people to, speak about yourself and to promote, be self-promoting. Like, that was something I had to learn early on in my career, and it was very uncomfortable and awkward for me. And I was even just thinking of things like back in my career, I was told early on things like I needed to maybe dress a little more masculine and that I looked almost too young. So I remember when my gray hair started coming in, I was like thankful for the gray hair. I went and took more professional photos and updated my website with the gray, because I was like, maybe now I'll have some more credibility in the eyes of, some of the leaders that I was coaching and working with. So I just think that for us now at this stage to be able to create support networks, mentor, help people with their careers, be role models, it's going to be a game changer. I remember early in my career looking up, and there was one executive in the company I worked for that was a woman. And I remember talking to her and doing like an informational interview. How did she get there? And what was her path? And she intentionally said, she chose not to have children. And it was a choice she made at that time because she chose her career. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I've got to leave this company then, because I had fully intended on having children. And in fact, I ended up leaving 6 months later because I knew there was no place for me. Like, I had dreams, I had goals, and I just knew that was not the place for me. So I even find myself coaching women at times, like, take ownership for your own development, ask for the feedback, ask for mentoring, ask for training. If you're not getting it, go get it yourself. Like, I spent most of my career having to develop myself and awkwardly ask people to mentor me at times, right? And I just want to empower people to.
I had a question for you guys, because I was thinking about it when, in contemplation of this conversation, and maybe it's not true for you, but do you think that there was a turning point in your career where you just decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna switch from that agreeable, like, yeah, I'm just learning whatever, to that mindset of no, my voice is going to be heard and I will stand up for myself or whatever. Can you think of a turning point where that happened in your careers? I was curious about your experiences.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. Danny, go for it.
I actually wrote an article on LinkedIn about it. It's when a man called me toots in the work environment. I was a senior manager. I was running the construction division, and he thought it was okay to call me babe. And then when I asked, what is that all about? And I said, oh, should I have said toots? And at that point is when I said, I'm like, fuck this. Why am I playing nice when they're not trying to be just respectful? Not even nice, just be respectful and give me the respect that I deserve for all the work that I put in. How about you, Debbie?
Wow. Unfortunately, part of being in HR, and then this was in consulting, I was working for a company and there was some inappropriate harassment going on with a young female employee that I became privy to by a male leader. And when I tried to address the issue, was kind of told that this is common and I should just not say anything and kind of let it go. And I just was like, that's it. And so I found my voice. It was no more like, oh, I'm worried I'm going to lose this client. And I absolutely addressed the issue and actually got fired. And I remember it was the first time, and not the only time, by the way, I've been fired by a man for standing up and speaking up and them not liking it. And that was so hard because I was self-employed. I had 2 young children. I was like, now what am I going to do? And I remember crying in the car on the way home and feeling so anxious. And my husband at the dinner table cheersed me with a glass of wine. And he said, well done. This is marking a change. Like, well done. Like, you did the right thing. And yes, you got fired. There will be other people out there who will hire you because of what you stand for and your integrity, and do not for 1 minute regret the fact that you did the right thing. And it was like such a freeing moment for me. Once you get to that place of freedom of you can get fired and survive it and be self-employed with 2 young children and a mortgage, it's like, now the gloves are off and I just will use my voice and stand up for what's right. And I don't get pushed around anymore. And I used to feel a bit bullied at times by some of my male clients. And I have been fired a few times and survived.
And you're creating the perfect example for your kids. How about you, Nitasha? What's your turning point?
Nitasha, I'd love to hear it.
It's hard to pinpoint it. You guys had good, very specific examples, but I think one was just moving from the junior to like a more managerial role. But I think the other thing was also like a life change. I think when I got divorced or separated, it was also like an awakening of like, I know what I want to stand up for, and that sentiment pervades both my professional and my personal life. And it was kind of a turning point where I was like, enough's enough. Like I did often feel like I was always, I'm a very like honest person, so I always say whatever's on my mind and stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily, stand up for myself as strongly as had happened after that point. And it was a very like I was in a job where when I started voicing and challenging and actually standing up for myself, I ended up leaving that job also because he was like, oh, you've changed since, you know, this happened in your life, whatever it was. And then my boss didn't like the change at all and wasn't afraid to tell me that you're different and I'm not, and I don't really like where this is heading. I left of my own accord, realizing that, okay, this is not the environment that's going to foster my, you know, future growth and stuff like that. But it was funny how the relationship changed so much just because I was willing to say what I wanted to say, rather than just go with the flow, you know.
Well, I hate that you're running out of time, but there is a question that was posed, and there's some incredible comments happening in the comment group, so I can't wait for the mix and mingle. But there was a question for Nitasha, and it said, you worked in several countries. Can you talk to differences around the world? And by the way, Nitasha, you get to be better at bragging about yourself, because she, like, you know, she's mentioned that has worked in other countries, but, you know, we're talking from South Africa to North America to Europe, worked on the World Trade Center. Hey, not a big deal, but she's quiet about it. So what would you say about the differences around the world in glass ceilings?
I definitely see differences around the world or I guess the contrast is more in terms of like big cities versus smaller cities. Working in New York and London it's kind of like, things move so fast that you don't have time to think about ceilings or feelings or, you know, limits, because it's like so much work to do and there's so much opportunity that people are like, if you can do it, please run with it. And I was more junior in my career when I went to both places, but they were amazing for my career because of the amount of responsibility I had at a very junior age, because the environment was just fostering, you know, opportunity for anyone that can really grab it. Whereas in other cities, and I mean, I've lived in Toronto and I've lived in Vancouver, I lived in Montreal. Even from Toronto, there was a difference between New York or London. Like, it still felt a little bit more stagnant, I would say. There's still opportunity. And then you come to Vancouver and it's, you know, very much a small town in the respect of where we've progressed to. I mean, I get along with people and they're good people everywhere, but I think just when you have environments where the flow of opportunities, the fountain of opportunities is so massive, some of these things just you just get pushed along with the tide if you have the capability to do it. So yeah, I do see a difference in countries.
Well, we're kind of running out of time, and I'm just checking if you have a little bit more time, but there's some incredible comments, and Jenny made the point. She said, we don't have to fear being fired or let go for losing something that it's not that great to begin with. And I think that's an amazing comment. And
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say something about that and touch on the concept of bravery, because it was weird, because I saw this short little TED talk yesterday, and it was talking about how girls and boys are raised very differently. Boys are raised to be brave and play and jump off things and whatever, and girls are raised to like play nicely and do well, whatever, which carries on in our life. And so I think when you made that decision to stand up for yourself regardless of the consequences, you show bravery, which is kind of, you can see how that would be like a pivotal moment to push you away from all of your inherent whatever conditioning that you might have had, you know, previously. And once you did it and you realized, you know, I'll still survive and everything will be fine, it's so much easier to progress. And I think we've all gone through that in some ways, where we've gone through those hard times, we've been challenged or have stood up for ourselves. We've seen the repercussions of it, and we moved on, and we still succeeded beyond that. So now it's like, I have no fear. I've worked in so many different parts of the industry. If I go on site and I don't know about something, I'm not afraid to say like, oh, I don't know, can you explain it to me? Because I know I'm technically good, and I know I have common sense, and I will understand it. And if you think you can intimidate me because you think I might not know the exact answer to the question, I have no fear for that. Like, I mean, that I've surpassed that mindset now, and I think that's a great place to like continue on for the rest of the years that we have in this.
I feel so proud, and I have goosebumps to be able to stand next to all these wonderful women, like to both of you ladies, and all the ladies that are posting all the comments and are getting engaged with HAVAN, and it's amazing. Debbie, you wanted to share a few tips with us, I think, just to help us manage our careers better.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I just want to comment. I love what you said about the bravery piece. And I think facing our fears is where the confidence grows. So we don't grow confidence staying on this side of our fear, right? It's when we go over. So it's like that, feel the fear, do it anyways. And on the other side of it is where the confidence grows. So it's understanding that's how we will gain our confidence, is not in the absence of fear. It's in stepping into that fear, right? So for me, that was hugely liberating, being fired, surviving it, and growing that muscle of, I can handle it. That's where our confidence comes from. So I think we can really take a lot to heart in terms of just what you said, how we're socializing our girls. You can handle it, whatever the it is in their life. You can handle it. If they've got that belief, regardless of what happens to them, regardless of what comes at them, they will meet it with a sense of confidence because they'll believe they can handle it. They've got the resources. They've got the support. I mean, you talk about this last year and this concept of resiliency. I spend a lot of time coaching people on resiliency. And one of the key factors to a person's resiliency is the belief that someone strong has their back. So there is a huge plug for what you're doing here today, and creating networks and groups of women that can support you in your career, in your personal life, right? Anywhere. I mean, having a support system in place is critical to a person's belief that they can handle whatever comes at them. And then what I just want to say from like a career management point of view is I spend a lot of time just helping women dream and believe that they can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. So what is your dream? What is your vision for yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in retirement? Like, spend some time in your imagination dreaming. What do you really want your life to look like a year from now? Right? 5 years from now. So create the vision, just like we do in business, create the vision, and then set some smart goals to help you get there. So again, don't just set goals, set smart goals. So those are goals that are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic. You put a time frame on it. So create the action steps, right, that are going to help you reach that vision or goal for your future. And then share them with someone. So share them with your boss, share them with your mentor, share them with your support group, so you can get some encouragement and you can get some help along the way. I would say those are some of the key things. And again, I mean, coaches are great, counselors are great, friends are great, right? Support networks are great. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask people for help or ask people to support you. Women empowering women is huge. And I feel like we all know, it's like we're all in that same boat, right? We're all in this together. Don't be afraid to ask people. Ask for a reference, ask for a referral, ask for a mentor, right? Just have the courage to put it.
It takes a village. It takes a village to do anything.
Absolutely does. It takes a village to do. I mean, that lesson I learned in living for a while in Africa, right? We lived over there for a while, and the way they approach life, and I'm sure, Nitasha, some of the things you commented on from working in different countries, absolutely it takes a village. And yeah, just believing in yourself is key to all of this.
There's a comment
in your mind you can achieve, right?
There is a comment in the chat. It's from Jenny again, and she said, I've been wanting to set up a cohort of young women in residential construction who want to learn to build, to manage, and lead the residential construction industry. I think that's incredible. So I really, really hope, Jenny, you stick around for the mix and mingle and you submit your contact info in the that's in the email that the spreadsheet that HAVAN will email out after the event for all the attendees, because I think that's a great idea and we need more of that. Well,
I have 100% partnered with some kick-ass women. Let me just tell you that. I saw in a comment, Lori's here. I saw you in the comment. And partnering, there she is, Lori. So here's the thing. You find other women who are kicking butt and you partner with them and you're like, how can we be stronger together? I feel like this year has really reinforced that for all of us. We need each other. How can we lift each other up? How can we support each other? How can I help you in your business? How can you help me? Let's go for it.
Love it. Well, I think at this point, we would like to get into a Q&A if possible. Maybe Laurel and Meredith can join us. And any questions that you may have for anybody that you see on the screen right now, put them into the comments window. And I think if we don't have any questions, then it's the mix and mingle time.
I just wanted to say, it's so great listening to you guys talk. This is just wonderful. And I love the comments, just reading the comments as they come in. I was going to say, it really dawns on me too, that we have control over ourselves. We also have control who we work for. And you talked about that, Nitasha and Debbie as well. And so choosing to work for a company that has training, that has conversations, that has support, that kind of stuff is huge. And we can all, that is within our realm. And of course,
that has values too, right? I mean, there are construction companies out there with values. And so 100%. I tell people, ask those questions.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's so amazing to hear you guys talk. And there's some questions coming up. So Monique asks, has you experienced misogyny from other women? I remember Kim Campbell talking about how that surprised her most of her time as PM. Yeah.
I just stay away from women like that. Yeah. You're going to find ways. Yes. There are women out there like that.
That is like the worst form of the prejudice that exists in our industry, is when women aren't there to support or build fellow women up. Like, to me, that is worse than what men do, because it's that's the thing that disappoints me the most when I see that. I think like we're talking, we're I don't know, I don't want to end on a downer, so I'm going to end on an up note. But before I go to the up note, I want to say that, it's not always going to be there, the supportive company or the supportive friend circle or whatever that really understand how you're going through. Sometimes it is going to be lonely through the journey. So I always tell, I have my young project manager that works for me, who was working only on interior renovation projects. And we had this ground up project that was coming up. I was like, well, why? I've heard from other people that she only wanted to do improvement projects for the rest of, her career. I was like, why did you say that? Like, I see so much potential in you. Like, I'm wondering why you wouldn't want to like try to do something bigger. And then she was like, I just don't think that I know enough about it, and how could I do it, and all that kind of stuff. I was like, that stuff you can learn. Like, you have the attributes that it takes, like you're smart enough and you're diligent enough and what you're detail oriented, whatever, that learning will come or whatever. And so now she's working on that project with me, and it's fine. But that doubt that exists, I just find it, I find it so pervasive in women. And I think it goes back to that fear aspect that we talked about. I think we have to like, I tell her and I tell others, I'm like, don't be afraid to push back sometimes. It's okay if somebody's telling you to like do X, Y, and Z and it's not in your scope of work. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure this is how it actually should be balanced. Could you actually do this for me? And then I can take it back, whatever. But it's showing people or coaching younger women around you how to be able to stand up for themselves, because it doesn't seem to be something that happens naturally. There was statistic that I read about how like men will apply for jobs if they have like 60% of the job qualifications, but women will only apply for it if they have 100%. So that's just a mindset that I see over and over and over again in females that work in my department and stuff, that I'm kind of flabbergasted at, because they're so put together, so smart, and good at what they do, and I still see that doubt in them. So that's something that I think that like we should just realize that it exists. And I don't know, other than coaching and mentoring, when you can, sometimes you just have to have the stamina to like see your way through. And then on the flip side of it, on the good side of it, I guess I always struggle with, as far as I've come in my career, and, I can say I'm with the guys and with the boys and invited along a lot of the times. And there'll always be those things that's like, it's always going to be a boys club. It's always going to be a guys, deals are being done in certain places that I'm just not going to be invited to. Like, that's just part of our industry because of its traditional nature. And you can go two ways about it. You can kind of like insist to be invited and like fight and like, no, I need to be there and which doesn't feel authentic or natural to me at all. Or you can go the other route, which is what I'm passionate about, which is getting more women into the industry, getting more diversity in general into the industry, like male, female, cultures, people from big companies, small companies, whatever it is, and making sure that the environment that we're in is so diverse that you can't help but have different environments in which deals or business are being done, just because of the nature of who's populating the offices or the desks or whatever. And I think that's the quickest route to having change in our industry, is forgetting about them or forgetting about, that gender, only the gender bias, and being like, you know what, we're just going to create an environment that is as diverse as possible, and that's just going to organically change who we are as an industry. And I hope it will take less than 170 years, but we'll see.
There's a very interesting question. I would love to hear your guys' comments. And like, I don't have babies, so I'm not a very good person to talk about it. But has anybody experienced the challenges like with pregnancy?
Yeah. Well, I can speak to this. So I've got two kids. They're 24 and 21 now. But earlier in my career, I juggled my career around having children, and I could only have done that. It's amazing, because in hindsight, I just have such a feeling of gratitude to my boss at the time, who, I had my first. At that time, I'm really dating myself, because maternity leave was only 6 months at the time. And, but I started back a little bit earlier than that even. And I used to leave for breastfeeding schedule. I used to come and go. It was, Angelita would drive up with my daughter in the car, and we'd go to the park and have, slip that in between work and what have you. And I also, I took over his company for a year and ran it, but we sort of together planned my second child around that. And so it was incredible. And I knew that wasn't normal. I was incredibly appreciative at the time, but it goes to show you, it's about the allies and the people around you, and the people that recognize that you have the strength, the ability, and that kind of barrier doesn't stop anything. I really was lucky to navigate that, and also to have a partner who was really truly a partner through it all. When we moved to Vancouver, he stayed home while I traveled for work, and he stayed home with our toddlers. So, and he had his own proprietorship, and he would just sort of work it around. And we just manage that out. But that's all about the partners and the allies and the people that are in your life. I think, from my perspective, that's my gratitude around it. And I know there's so many people that have such a harder time, but
yeah, I see a lot of bias around mothers in the industry, and it's really anytime you ask or somebody's asking for some sort of flexibility and how it's perceived in terms of dedication to their role or or work ethic. And a lot of the times it's like, oh, we think it's the right thing for her like to do and all that kind of stuff. But there's this underlying kind of conversation that still happens of like, is she as productive though, working like, not as many days or not necessarily taking the time off. I think that's like a given, but I think when they come back, it's like the balancing of the responsibilities. And it's very disheartening that exists. Many years ago when I was working at a company, and it was one of the most, it was a French company, and they're very equal in terms of bias, I would say. But I remember my boss saying to me when we were planning, which projects to go after, that he was like, well, if you were to get pregnant during this time, then you could come back and you could still work on this project when you go back. And I was like, you're planning like my family, planning around projects. So it's just funny how transactional sometimes the conversation gets.
I have found though, and I'm not sure how many women you guys have worked in the industry, but I have always found all the women I work with have worked so much harder than men. And even now I'm looking at it, like the emails, when they start coming and when they stop coming. Yeah, there may be breaks. Ivy, my project manager, has 2 little ones. So she'll take a break, from when they're back from kindergarten until they're back in bed. But then the emails start stacking up. And I swear that woman does not sleep. I honestly don't know when she squeezes it in. And I think women just work harder because they're aware that they have to in order to be at the same level as their male counterparts.
Well, research shows women are better multitaskers. We actually are more productive. It's true. I can give you guys so many.
Do you think that's a result of having to be better at multitasking?
It's how our brains are wired. It's like actually a neuroscience thing. It's based on real research that the way our brains are wired, that we just have a whole bunch of stuff going on and can still get a lot of stuff done, right? We don't necessarily compartmentalize and focus on one thing and the next and the next. So we juggle a lot, and our attention is very different, and the way we process is very different.
And I think that's not very good for us either. And I think we need to stop doing that.
It leads to burnout for sure. Yeah. It leads to burnout. I mean, again, what I spend a lot of time coaching women on is work-life balance. Sorry, I'm going to change my word. Work-life integration. Balance is out the window. It's not a reality anymore. So we need to stop telling ourselves that we should achieve something that actually is delusional, right? Like work and life are completely enmeshed now. Balance is not like a real concept. So work-life integration sets us up for success. How do we better integrate our work and our life responsibilities? Because they're completely enmeshed now, right? Because of technology. They're just not boundaries. And most of us are now working from home. Some have kids in the background. Some are schooling their children, right? So there's so many challenges. I mean, I love the stories of support that you've received. I have to say my experience was different. I think what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Absolutely. I had a female boss who cried when I told her I was going on mat leave because that was not the plan that she had for me and for our department and the career. Right. And then who equally kind of phased me out of my job slowly after I asked to come back part-time. And I was bullied in the workplace by women who were like jealous. I mean, so it's interesting, right? I think what we really need to do is find our own sense of self-confidence and really know what our strengths are and put ourselves in positions as much as possible to develop that confidence in ourselves. If we don't have self-confidence, I'm going to encourage anyone on here who is wavering in self-confidence to actually get like some help from a counselor or a coach to help you grow in your self-confidence. Because I love what Nitasha said, which is you're not always going to have someone who has your back or who can mentor you or support you. So you really got to work right on yourself, again, with that belief of you deserve to be here. You deserve that next promotion. You can do it. That starts with our self-talk, right? And so I think we can really encourage people to do some work around growing in their own confidence. So then when you have confidence, you will be more assertive. You will stand up for yourself. You will ask for things, right?
Well,
And
Debbie, I think the joke is on
Yeah.
your old boss that cried because I think and didn't want to rehire you because I think you're better off now. I think we're coming to the end. There was one question that we didn't answer, Teresa Reinsch, about
Great
schooling.
questions.
Join us in the mix and mingle, and then we'll talk about the schooling where some of the stuff can be learned because I don't 100% understand it. But thank you all for attending. Laurel, I think you are gonna.
Yeah, I was just going to echo your thanks, Danny, and thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you for sharing your stories. Natasha, Debbie, it was so lovely to have you and lovely to hear from you. Thank you for being part of the Women's Council Growing Network. A big thank you to HAVAN for hosting us on Socio, this new platform. The Mix and Mingle is a fun, organic way we can all get together, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. To our Café series sponsors, Alabaster Homes and Pavilion Co-work, thank you so much. I'd also like to send out some appreciation to everybody that helped put today together, and our team is growing. So please come out and join us. Thank you again. If you're interested in getting involved with the council, please reach out to myself, Meredith, Danny. There's our next council meeting displayed there. Thank you so much. I think glass ceilings are meant to be broken, and so I look forward to hearing and sharing more stories that do so. Our next Café series is a little ways away in August 18th, guys. So if you're interested in helping us out with topics and or career fair or sponsorship, volunteering, please reach out and come to our next general meeting. Look forward to seeing you all there and helping continue the conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
It's great.
Thanks for having us.
Natasha, Debbie, thank you.
Bye.
You guys in the Mix and Mingle.
Conversation.
See you there.
Thanks so much, ladies. Bye.